What is up, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new YouTube video. Today we're going to talk about how I get prepared for my airline pilot trip tomorrow from JFK to Punta Cana, back to JFK, all in the same day, and how we are as airline pilots legal to fly that much in one day. The legality of how much a flight crew can work in one day all comes into play with the FAR 117, which was implemented by the FAA over 10 years ago on January 4th of 2014. This was the first limiting implementation by the FAA in over 60 years. And this simply just puts limitations on how much a flight crew can operate in one single duty period. So for tomorrow, I'm gonna be operating JFK to Punta Cana and back to JFK. And I wanna talk about the FAR limitations, and then we'll get into how I prepare for this. On the FAR 117 Table B, I have a report time of 6 a.m. and I have 2 flight segments tomorrow. So you'll see from 0600 to 0659 with 2 flight segments, I am legal to be on duty for 13 hours. Now, a mandatory flight time of 9 hours across all flight segments is all we're allowed to do in a single duty period. So you could have just one leg, and if it's over 9 hours, then you have to have something called an augmented crew, which we'll talk about in a later video. If you guys have questions about that, before that video, drop it down in the comments down below and I'll make sure to get back to you. So tomorrow I will be legal for 13 hours, and I'm actually on duty for 10 and a half hours with 8 hours and 3 minutes of flight time. So a lot of things and a lot of factors come into play here when it gets to preparing for this trip tomorrow. A lot of things can happen, especially in the winter time here in New York, because you can have snowstorms come in last minute, you can have things like de-icing, you can have ground delays, air traffic congestion. A lot of things come into play on this massive moving operation that we like to call the airlines. So the 8 hours and 3 minutes can actually approach the 9 hours really quick when it comes to winter months. Let's say out of nowhere a snowstorm pops up and we didn't think we had a de-ice, and now we have to push back and a lot of airplanes are having to de-ice. This can take 30 up to 45 minutes, sometimes even longer. So already we're blocked at 8 hours and 3 minutes of flight time. That can already start pushing on 9 hours. And a lot of different factors come into play when it comes to airline operations, what they want to do with pilots when they approach those 9 hours of flight time. A couple things that they can do, since we're flying from JFK down to Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic, is have another crew deadhead or ride as a passenger from Miami to meet us in Punta Cana, then to operate that flight from Punta Cana to JFK. And now this is where the moving parts come into play. We have a lot of things like reserve pilots, reassignments, meaning like, let's say I was supposed to fly from JFK to Punta Cana, coming back, and they reassigned me to actually fly from Punta Cana to Miami, and I swap with that other crew member that deadheaded to Punta Cana. I know this can get kind of confusing, but those are things that come into play when it comes to airline operations. Lots of moving parts at all times, and they try their best to keep the airline moving. On the duty side of things, being good for 13 hours and only being scheduled on duty for 10 and a half, even with most delays when it comes to daily operations, that most likely will not be a factor. However, the 9 hours typically does come into a factor on these really long flights. I'll give you guys another example of during the summer months versus the winter months of whenever we come into an augmented crew. We have a turn out of JFK to St. Kitts, which in the summer months, the winds tend to be less and we don't have to de-ice. So we can actually make it to St. Kitts and back in under 9 hours. But during the winter months, this is actually one of my favorite trips, which I've made a video about in the past. We actually take 2 sets of crews. One crew deadheads down there while the other crew operates, and then we swap in St. Kitts, so that way everyone has plenty of legal duty day to fly there and back. But because of these 9 hours, you never know what can happen. Let's say we actually push back from the gate, run into some air traffic control delays, a lot of congestion on the ground, a snowstorm rolls in, and then we have to de-ice. There's no way we're gonna make it down there and back in less than 9 hours, and they don't have any crew members to get reassigned to meet us down in Punta Cana to operate back. So what could happen is we operate down there and then we end up overnighting in Punta Cana. It seemed like a nice, easy one-day trip, and now it's turning into a multi-day trip. Call me a risk taker, but I like to pack as little as possible, but also still be prepared for these day trips. And that brings me to today's sponsor, Nomad Lane. And this is honestly my new work bag. It is unbelievable. Thankfully, because of my seniority, and if you guys have watched the previous video, I talk about how I'm super fortunate where I can basically pick any trip that I want. And I like to be home as much as possible. So picking these long one-day trips is amazing because I hopefully get to wake up in my bed and go to bed in my own house, which is very nice. But you never know if the trip can go south and you end up getting stuck somewhere. So I like to pack as little as possible and not have to bring my carry-on bag with me on the subway if I ride that out to JFK. So you'll be blown away with how much I can fit in this flight deck bag. It's unbelievable. I packed all my essentials, which will go through all my iPad, my flight deck gear, my headset, so on and so forth. But if I do get stuck somewhere, I'm gonna wear my uniform obviously in the next day back to JFK, but I wanna be prepared for the overnight, and Nomad Lane has you covered. If you guys wanna check them out, it'll be the first link in the description. Use code Garrett10 for 10% off. Let's get right into it. The first thing, which I was blown away, I didn't even know the bag came with this, is like a little toiletry bag, which if I get stuck for a short overnight, this is all I need. It actually comes with 2 of these: face wash, deodorant, toothbrush, toothpaste, you know, moisturizer. It's got everything covered. This is an awesome little bag right here. But because I will be wearing my uniform back the next day if I were to get stuck in Punta Cana, I have an undershirt, obviously underwear, work socks, anything essential that I need to wear for the next day. And then obviously I'm not gonna wear my work boots around in Punta Cana if I get stuck there for the night. So I bring workout shoes, running shoes, just shoes basically I can use for anything. And I know you're like blown away already how much I can fit in here. Now the next bag, which is a lot more fun stuff, I bring water bottle because electrolytes every single day, people. Make sure you're drinking electrolytes when you're up in the air, okay? You need 8 fluid ounces of water for every 1 hour you're up in the air, minimum, okay? Then I bring my high visibility pre-flight vest. I bring my iPad, which has my checklist and everything in it, my quick reference handbook. Next up is my Bose ProFlight Series 2 headset, which it's a must. And if you guys want links to some of this other stuff, it'll be down below the Nomad Lane link, which will link you to like the headset and stuff that I bring on the flight deck with me, pins. I have so much room, like I'm finding new pockets. This is gonna be my 3rd time using this bag and I'm honestly in love. I bring my license, passport, obviously, because you don't need it going down there, but if you get stuck, then you're really gonna need it. I bring an extra pair of epaulets because you never know if somehow I wake up super early and I make it to the airport and I forgot to put my epaulets on. I don't know, I just like to be prepared. Then next up is obviously you gotta have chargers for your iPad, your phone, AirPods. This is essential. I like to use these walking through the airport if I want to jump on a phone call, or if I'm gonna get stuck on an overnight, I use that. If I end up deadheading on a flight, it's nice to have these in my flight bag at all times. And then also riding on the subway. Next up is like a cloth for my sunglasses, which I don't have in here because I wore them today. And then pins. Pilots gotta have pins. A picture of me and Bella, which I love to have with me at all times. Batteries for my headset for the noise canceling. And yeah, that's basically it. Isn't that insane that we can fit all that in one bag? But that's how I prepare packing wise when it comes to just a 1-day trip that could potentially run into a 2-day trip. And this fits perfect with my black suitcase that I obviously put this on with. So it's got a little sleeve right here that it can go over your handle, so your handle can slide right down on it. It's just a great bag, and I've been super happy with this so far, and I think you guys will thoroughly enjoy it, especially if you are in flight training. I think this would be a great bag because it just has so much space for books, reading material, whatever you need, whether you're a pilot or you're just an avid traveler, I promise you. So that's how I pack and prepare for a 1-day but potential 2-day trip. I also bring stuff like protein bars and overnight oats, which are in my refrigerator. and energy drinks that I put in first thing in the morning, which I had tons of space, tons of extra pockets. So huge shout out to Nomad Lane for sponsoring today's video. I hope this video helped you guys get a better realization and understanding of what goes into day-to-day operations when it comes to flight crews timing out. I know that's a thing that passengers like to talk about a lot, but hopefully this gives you guys a better idea. If you ever have any questions, just look up FAR 117, and that table, like I said, that we brought up is FAR 117 table B. Or if you guys just want to ask me questions down in the comments down below, feel free to do that as well. If you guys liked the video at all, if it helped you out at all, smash the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, it's completely free. I'm excited to have you guys along on this journey with me when it comes to aviation, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.